Alright, guys, can you hear me okay? Um, Kelly, I don't see the mic. Um, can you possibly uh retrieve it? I don't see it here because I think this laptop has a problem with the audio. Most of the time I'm barely audible if I don't use that external mic. Huh? Oh, okay, sorry. Katong flexible. Dude, dili ni maudong. I don't know for some reason. Naman siguro nito on.
Okay, on pa.
Katong usa. Wait, okay.
Mo na yung mauna.
Ha?
Mo na yung mauna. I-on ra na, sir.
Ano yung on, ano eh.
Ano yun, example yun.
Di ka doon ang usa ako do. I'm used to that. Do you guys hear me okay with this? Is it good? Let's make it better. So how's everybody doing? Are you good? Are you guys okay? Go. Are we good? I've missed you. We have not had any session for quite a while already. Dito ba yung prayer lead natin today? Si Jonathan. If not, the prayer lead for tomorrow can probably substitute. So we have Kathy tomorrow. Is Kathy here? Or maybe Jessica? Because I'm not sure if Jonathan is here. Are you here, Joe? Good. Let me see the chat. Wala ang mga nabanggit ko. Just so we can start, since I can see Aya is here, maybe Aya, can you lead the prayer just so we can get started? Is that all right? Putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yes, please. It's okay.
I feel like
Recording
you're
in
the most
progress.
reliable person when it comes to prayer. So, Aya, take it away.
Okay, let's pray. Loving Father, we're thankful for tonight that we can resume our training tonight. I pray, Lord, that you will grant us wisdom. I pray that you will give us an understanding of our lessons tonight. Be with Chris as he will facilitate the training. And may you bless this hour. I pray for strength, for guidance. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Aya. So, how's everybody doing? Are we guys good? Live na ba tayo sa Facebook and YouTube? Are we guys all good? Oh,
My God.
grabe naman yung speaker nila sa baba. I can very well hear myself. Ang ganda ng speaker ni Kelly Joan sa baba. So, Kelly Joan, if you can tone it down a bit because I can hear myself. All right. Okay tayo lahat. Anyone who wants to share how they are? Diba? Kasi pag sinabing, how are you? Laging sagot natin, we're good. We're not really good, right?
Like, if you ask me how I am, I'm not really good. Like, I don't know. I'm just a little burnt out. There's a lot of things going on. But keeping my head up above water, uh, yeah, there's a lot going on that I'm not too familiar with. You know, this feeling when you're into something that you have not done before, you exert a lot of energy and effort into it, right? And so you feel like you get drained so much because you pour yourself into it. There's a lot of brain cells being consumed, and that's what's going on with me. Like, all this thing that I'm doing with planning for the next tax season next year, you know, doing a lot of brainstorming, and then I also had to do the training and also do brainstorming for the upcoming internship, which we will really need to do to prepare you for next year. Because if we don't do it this year, you would lose a lot of time to make you prepare for either this year, later this year, or next year. So we really have to do that, and a lot of other stuff going on. So I'm a little overwhelmed, if I may say so, a little burnt out, but you know, keeping my head above water and you know, clinging to faith, and yeah, just taking it easy, right, as much as I can. That's about me. If you guys want to ask how I am doing, right? I saw Alma's hand raised earlier. Alma, you want to say something? I didn't miss you.
Yes. I've learned that when someone says how or ask you, how are you? Don't say you're fine. You should say I'm great, or another answer should be said, because fine means you are frustrated, insecure, neglected, and envious. So do not answer, I am fine. I thank you.
Thank you,
Yun
Alma.
lang po. Share.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, that's very lazy answer. But then again, we should start as a community, start learning how to answer how are you question properly, because it could really be a good conversation starter, right? So don't take it very lightly as much as possible, especially if you already have like a good relationship with that person that asks you how are you, you know, because unlike if it's very casual, very um if it's like an acquaintance or something, then I'm good, I'm fantastic, because like, you know, you don't owe that person an explanation as to how you're feeling if it's not fine or great, right? But if again, like we've already been together for quite some time. Actually, we're running 6 months already. No, 5 months, right? June, July, August, September. No, June, July, August, September, October, November. Actually, 6 months. Kaloka, 6 months na pala, right? Kung employment pa to, regular na tayo. But yeah, we've been together for 6 months, and I feel like I can be comfortable sharing with you as well what's going on with me personally, and you guys can do the same thing, right? It's important that we do not only just, you know, do this as a way of learning, but also a community that we can count on for whatever it is. All right, so much about me. I hope you guys also would, you know, reach out, and if there's anything going on in your life, reach out to whoever you feel comfortable to within the community. I don't know if I don't know if it's gonna be me, because I'm very swamped at the moment. But if you feel like you want to talk to me, let me know. All right. So having said that, we don't have a quote for the day. We don't have a tech tip. We don't have a recap. But we have a lot of resources that I've added into our resource tab. So let me now start sharing with you my screen. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, good. Everything has been uploaded, so just give me a second. Okay, copy the link and then paste it over here. All right, so you guys seeing my screen right now? Okay, let me just actually stop sharing and then reshare, because I need to share the audio. So we'll do it one time. All righty. There you go. So while we were not having session, I also made it a point. I did my best to provide you with resources, right? Even if we're not meeting on a regular schedule, I put together some things that will make the most out of the time that you have. So in the resource, of course, I did put the Thanksgiving link from what we had last Saturday. So if you guys would want to saw what happened in that 4 hour event, which was hugely successful, thanks to Alma and the team and everyone who performed. Good job, you guys. I shared with Sam and Kendall also. The reason why I share that with them is that they can get an understanding of the Philippine or a preview of a Filipino culture, right? Because Americans, they don't have it like this. They don't sing a lot. They don't even dance in parties. So that's a preview of what they will face once they have WITA or whatever the name would be in the future grow big in the Philippines. Right. I believe Alma will give us an update on how much we were able to raise on that event. So they're still conducting the audit, right? Or they're finalizing it. So just feel free to do that, Alma, maybe tomorrow or in the GC, and if you will. And what are the plans after? Like, how do we dispose of the funds and stuff, right? So I guess we owe everybody an update on that. And again, thank you guys for those who joined, who contributed, who gave out, whatever they can. Thank you also very much. And stay tuned for updates on that. Next is, I'll cover this first. So you got here the Pod 1 LP. That was the exercise that we did for 1065 return. And then a Loom recording on how to set up the 1065 return in ProConnect, and then navigating the M1, M2 adjustments. For M1, M2, this does not really apply to all business return. There is a threshold when business is required to fill out the M1 and the M2. I think it's about 250K in sales or about 1 million in assets. So when they breach that threshold, it becomes a requirement. But for some businesses, they still fill out the M1, M2. Nevertheless, just so they get the habit of reporting the numbers as they should be. So it's completely optional if it's below the threshold. That's what I'm saying. And then importing the K1 into the personal tax return. So by now, you should already know that a business return such as 1065 and 1120S produces statement K1, right? And then that K1 statement will be used to report the income into the individual's tax return, right? So in that scenario that I showed in the video, it's as if we prepared both the business return and the personal tax return, right? So it's simply importing the K1 from the 1065 to the individual return. And mind you, that's not always the case, right? There are instances wherein another firm prepared the business return, and all you get as a prepare for the individual return is the K1, the printed or the PDF copy of the K1. So you'll have to input them manually into the whatever tax software it is that you are using, okay? And then also, before I talk about the internship with Brendan, I think I missed to add one link here. So link to the tax prep course. So I have decided to share with everybody the tax prep course. Let's see, that I put up last year. And I hope you guys also take time to actually watch it, because the software that I used here was UltraTax. right? So you also get to familiarize yourself with the interface of UltraTax as a tax software. And again, I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again now. UltraTax is one of the widely used tax software for big firms. Okay, so it's an advantage for you if you don't necessarily have access to it, but you have an idea how it works, and you know what to expect of it if you're hired by a firm that uses UltraTax. And for your information, for the internship that we would have soon, we may be able to get access to an UltraTax software. So for those who are going to take the internship, I will hopefully be able to get that so you can get an experience how to navigate UltraTax. So this is how it looks like if you're already enrolled in the course. And the link, I sent it last night. Let me just check. So the link to register, I sent it last night. Let me go over and check. EA lobby. Right. And again, this is another freebie, guys, right? So I am pasting it right now. So this is what you will expect. So there is a preview of a 1040. If you feel like the ones that we have in the other course is too long, this one's very short, right? There's a previews of the common forms, and you also get to see how that gets inputted into the UltraTax software. The common forms, a preview of the common forms this is for individual, okay? And then the preview of UltraTax, Pro Series, and then of course Pro Connect, we already have it. And then inputs actual tax software for Schedule C and all the common forms. And then the business. So if you want to go straight to businesses, I have created videos as well on S Corp, partnership, and even C Corp, and also how to input them in, create a board paper, and then how to enter those into the tax software. So if you have the time, especially when we don't meet, this is a good supplemental resource. Okay, so I shared that already. For those who have not enrolled in that course, you can enroll that through the link here. So when you access the BA website, you will have in your library, you will have what is this?
Together a community of people interested.
So when you go to your library and you have already enrolled, this one should show, okay? So this is a supplemental resource to the business tax prep, if you have already enrolled in the business tax prep, okay? Makes sense? Question so far? Hindi ko nakakita ng chat. Okay. In here. UltraTax interface is similar to what the BR uses here in the Philippines. Oh. Yeah, I like UltraTax. UltraTax is one of my favorite software, actually. Pro Series would come first. UltraTax would go second. And then CCH. I don't really like Lessard. I don't know. The interface is, I don't like it. Sa business tax, let me see. The one that's currently ongoing, which is not yet finished, right? Let me see. Because we don't have quizzes on those other meetings that we had. Simply because they were just like America showing you how to set up the work paper. So we don't have quiz on that. In the same way we will not have Kahoots today because wala naman tayong lesson the past few days, right? Let me see. Business tax prep course. So right now, I think may quiz 17 sa tax prep, business tax prep. Oh no, sorry. Okay, walang quiz 17 pala. So let me see.
I tried opening quiz 12, ayaw, walang laman, hanggang 11 lang.
Okay, 11. Okay, thanks for the reminder. So looks like someone is not updating the quiz. And I don't know why when we have contents. And I'm sure that I also created quizzes in Kahoots. So maybe I'll have to remind Melody on this, or Christina if she's watching right now. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Okay, kasi date roll lang din yung I have day up to day 15. So we should have quiz all the way to day 15. So I need to remind the team to do that. But thank you, Elma, for bringing that up. Requirement din po ba ultra tax for internship? Hindi naman po. It's not gonna be required because that's how you will learn, right? It's gonna be through the internship. And speaking of internship, I shared with you guys the link to the meeting that we had with Brendan earlier today. And you may wonder when you were watching it why we only had few people join the internship. Well, because initially we wanted to, sorry, this is a test internship. So I'm working with Brendan. He owns this tax firm or accounting and tax firm based off of Hawaii. And he's going to be willing to take on more interns and maybe even place some of you guys for an actual work. But we need to start small, right, to make it more manageable, right? So I prioritize those who took the QBO certification exam, the one that I had to do myself. So they were the priorities, and for those who are not included, you will probably come next. Okay, because again, Brendan are gonna need more interns because they got several accounts, and we're slowly putting things into a better structure. Okay, but just watch this Loom recording to understand. It was a good presentation that he did, mostly for doing or managing the books. So I think that was the first CRM I have seen for a bookkeeping that's very well integrated, right? So it's really good, and it's going to be good experience for those who will participate in this internship. It's a little shaky though, because I don't know if Brendan's going to be watching this video, but Brendan is kind of like high and low, right? He's very unpredictable because he's been so frustrated so many times having to work with people who thought who's got experience, ended up having no experience, handling transitioning between Filipino and then India team. And then he wants a Filipino team, but the Filipinos, generally his experience is really bad because they end up not knowing what it is that he teaches them. And then the Filipino culture of saying yes, even if we don't understand, right? No question, even if we have so many questions. So that ends up a really frustrating experience for him. We wanted to do this for a long time, but he also has personal troubles back with other companies that he's doing, and he was not in the right mindset. So I think he reached out to me yesterday, Saturday. So he said he's finally in the right mindset to start this, and I hope that he's more stable now. And I hope that Chris, Joanne, and the rest of the peeps that I have endorsed for the internship will do a good job, so that it manages his stress level to a lower level, maybe to a very minimal level. If napansin niyo kanina, Chris, he was kind of stressed with the lady from India, right? And but it is what it is, right? It's very stressful managing a bookkeeping and tax firm, especially if so many clients already, and then you don't have a competent team, much more a manager who has in control of everything, because that would end up the firm owner working a lot of hours figuring things out, rather than his hours being spent on acquiring clients, right? That's what he wanted to do. At the end of the call, he mentioned that what he wanted to do is really focus on marketing, advertising, because that's how he can get clients that he can endorse you to, right? And he's even hired uh, a recruiter based in Cebu to help you guys get an opportunity to work directly with a tax or a bookkeeping firm in the US. So this is a start, and there's gonna be more. Carol, by the way, if you met her the last time we had, she's coming to Cebu. Finally, she's arriving in Cebu on the 3rd of December. So I'm probably gonna be meeting her on a weekend in Cebu. So we're gonna talk about more structure also on the internship that she has in mind, and I'm sure that she's got more ideas too. But all of these things, guys, please bear with us, because we're doing it for the first time, right? And that's also the stress that's coming into me, because I have to figure out things and really pour out a lot of energy into it, and it's kind of stressful. So bear with me. This is, I mean, you're lucky you're part of the pioneering team of BA. But if there are things that you feel shaky, or you feel like you're lost, BA is also becoming disorganized, please understand that we're doing it for the first time. Okay, so there's a lot of learning, I would say, experiences that we'd have to go through to figure these things out. Okay, so if you feel like you can also help in easing the burden of the team, please feel free to do so. I have few people who have already reached out to me, and is also has been very, very helpful. I can tell you that one is Miles. Miles has volunteered to manage our LinkedIn account. Thank you, Miles, for doing it. She's doing it pro bono, and I think she's doing a really, really good job at getting more connections in LinkedIn. We need that, right? If we are to grow, and we want to expose you to more potential clients. And then Chris G as well, very, very helpful in updating the errors in our website. As you may notice, we have several errors in our website in the quizzes, because I don't have time to really go through the quizzes, guys. And the people that are working behind it, Christina, Melody, they're not necessarily accountants, but they've been doing their best, and they've been using AI to come up with questions. But I have no time to vet those. But again, people like Chris and Juvie also sent one in the channel earlier. Those comments will make the course better, right? And that would be your way, probably, if you're into it as well, paying forward, and that would help others who will join or take the course in the future, right? So they have a better experience than you have. All right, so that's the update. What else have I what else do I have in mind? Yeah, I think that's about it. Let me take a pause and read through the chat. Yeah, longest staff with him was just 1.5 years. So feel he's yeah, he's very lost. the guy's very lost. And when you start to when you start to get affiliated with tax firms, you may come across firms like that. Shaky because ang taas ng turnover. People come and go. And then pag people come and go kasi sa isang firm, um, walang momentum. And then pabago-bago ng approach, right? And medyo mahirap i-navigate. But those are the firms then na lagi naghahanap ng staff sa LinkedIn, sa Upwork. Every year naghahanap kasi every year sila nagpapalit ng tax preparer. Pero magulo yung ganyan, guys. Pag napabilang kayo sa ganyang firm, medyo hindi maganda ang experience kasi wala ka masyadong mapagtatanungan. Right? So, ang magandang firm na mapabilang kayo is yung established na, and then may mga managers who've been in the firm for, couple of years, 3 years, mga ganon, because you would feel supported. Right? Kasi kung bago kayo, of course, there's a lot of things that you would that you don't know. Right? So, and a lot of the quirkiness, yung mga process na peculiar lang sa firm, you will have to navigate them, diba? If you're doing it on your own, you may make mistakes, it may not be efficient, but if someone is there for quite a while, easy na lang yung navigation ng processes. So, but there are pros and cons, diba? Pag hindi naman established pa na firm and you happen to have some really good and exemplary organizational skills, you will shine, right? And then you may get the trust of the firm owner and baka gawin kang a partner later on because you have made significant contribution to the firm, right? So that's one. Oh, I forgot to share with you guys. So diba one share ko lang to sa inyo para ma-encourage kayo to take the EA exam and to continue pushing for this course. Huwag kayong bumitiw ba, no, na matuto sa US tax because there really are opportunities. And bas na-mention ko na to sa inyo before na November, December really hiring yung industry, right? So myself, even if I'm not actively looking for a job and I put my rate in online jobs PH the highest rate possible, meron pa rin nagre-reach out, right? Like I intently do that para kasi 'di ba pag you put yourself out there and then a lot of people will get attracted to your profile, ang daming magme-message, right? And that to me is kind of a distraction. So, nilagay ko doon, pinakamataas na rate. So, yung magre-reach out, yun lang yung talagang tingin nila, afford nila yung rate. And then there's trios, right? And this I did for Upwork as well. Para that's my way of filtering those who will. Kasi pag tingin nila ng rate, hindi ko to afford or hindi ko not within my budget range. So, I would not reach out anymore, right? So that's in my case, right? I'm not saying that you should do it now, that you're still beginning pa lang. But I'd like to share this with you kasi this is a really interesting one. Nag-reach out siya sa akin and I think he might be a big firm already. Wait, baka mamali ako ng share. Okay, so this is the email that I got, right? So, senior accountant role, tapos, the Commission of Philippine CPA and legal agent is thing, he owns a tax firm. By the way, this is second nag-reach out sa online jobs page in the last month. So, paparami pa to ng December, for sure. So, he's looking for someone who has an EA license. That's why EA really matters, guys. Because of course, US tax practitioners are either EA or CPA, and they know what EA stands for. And then CAF number, I already have it. This is when you are an EA and you are representing tax clients before the IRS, you have to have a CAF number para i-associate yung tax client with your um PTIN, an EA number. So every time I notice si taxpayer, because ikaw yung POA niya, makakakuha ka din ng copy, right? And then there is a way that they can validate your EA number through a website. So before, ang alam ko lang ito, if you Google and then list of IRS enrolled agent, akala ko ito lang, kasi meron ditong link si IRS na pwede mong i-download and you can see all the IRS enrolled agents. Yeah, so you can download that. But for firm owners kasi, medyo matrabaho to, di ba? Magda-download pa sila to hindi ko mag-convert. Ino-open ko lang yung dinownload ko. So these are the list of AAs around the world. Ilan to? So this is 71,000, close to 72. Alam ko marami na tayo sa Philippines eh. Dati mga 30 plus lang. But now in the Philippines, I think marami na nga. 68 na. But not too many pa din. Still not too many. Kumpara mo sa India naman. Ang daming EA sa India. Number one yung India na outside. Diba? 3,681. So, hindi pa ganun kadami sa Philippines. So, yung competition, hindi pa ganun katindi. Diba? Balik tayo sa Philippines. So, there is a way for them to verify pala na quickly. So, this is me, right? So, meron tong display na hindi pala dito yung EA number. Kasi once you get the EA certificate, email yan, may physical mail that will be sent by the IRC or address. Hanapin ko lang yung email ni Crystal. 1 second, guys. And this could also be used by you, like yung due diligence kayo ng mga potential clients. Kasi isa din that you need to be aware, maraming scam na some of you may have already experienced. Maraming scam na nag-hire ng mga taxpayers na you may end up working for free kasi hindi kayo babayaran. Or basta maraming mga ganun na hinihingan kayo ng mga PTIN. Be wary, and based on experience, marami dyan sa Georgia. Kapag Georgia yung nag-approach sa inyo for job opportunity, be very cautious kasi hindi naman sa pagiging racist. Marami kasing malaki ang black community sa Georgia, right? And marami din sa kanila na meron naman talagang mga tax firm but they're hiring Filipinos to be conduit dun sa or complicit sa mga ginagawa nilang hindi tama. Yung nagpe-prepare ng return tapos di ba may mga refunds, right? So ginagawa nila, minamagic nila yung mga deductions para lumaki yung mga lumaki yung potential refund, and you don't want to associate yourself with that because especially pag na-license na kayo, your license may be in jeopardy if that happens. Ika lang happen ko lang yung message ni Crystal. And Crystal, by the way, is also looks like, I don't know if you guys have met Crystal before. We had one session where Crystal showed up as a guest. She's also ramping up her tax practice this year, so she may need either an employee or an intern. I know there's someone I endorsed to her. Actually, a list of people that I endorsed to her for interview kasi naganap din siya ng bookkeeper. And one person came back to me and said, nag-reach out na nga si Cristel. But I don't know if she eventually got hired. But I hope I hope Cristel hired her. Ito. So search ko na din sa inyo. So whenever you're planning to work with someone tapos they claim to be EA, hanapin niyo sila dito just to check if they are really EA. So I'll share this link na lang din. And the way you would search for them is, asan na yun? Lost. Here. So country, for example, ako, Philippines, zip code 6313. And then, ayan. Enroll. Ayun. So lalabas ka. Yan. Right. So this is how most employers would validate your credential if you are an enrolled agent. And again, I'm sharing this with you to encourage you to really take it seriously, you guys, because mayroon talagang future ang mga enrolled agent, even non-enrolled agent yet, right? So if you're not yet an enrolled agent, but you're seriously taking it during an interview for a potential position, mention it, that you're seriously considering taking an EA exam. And meron pa nga ako dati na firm na employed ako na nagsa-sponsor talaga sila ng enrolled agent. Sila yung sasagot ng exam fee, yung travel, ganyan. In fact, yung firm that I was affiliated with when I was taking the EA exam was thinking of reimbursing me for the cost, but I just chose not to because pag ganun kasi, di ba, parang beholden ka and then you will have maybe a bond na hindi ka pwedeng umalis for a certain number of years. And I didn't want that arrangement. So I politely declined. So yan. I hope that's not a lot to share with you guys. Because medyo matagal din tayo hindi nagkita-kita, di ba? So, and if you guys missed that, the link is here. IRS practitioner search. Okay. And then also, hindi to restricted for those resources na ako lang naglalagay. Pwede kayong maglagay din ditong resources that you feel others would benefit from. Okay? Kasi, except for Mel and Kelly and Nora, ako lang tagalagay dito. Charet. All right. Hiningal ako. Are we good? Are we still good? Right. So, my questions, comments kayo? Clarification? Yeah, yung interested talaga, mag-reach out yan at legit. True. And Glyme. So if you are already thinking of taking the EA exam, mag-purchase kayo ng Glyme kasi may Black Friday sale yan to sila. I don't know lang kung magkano to ngayon. Search ka natin. Black Friday sale for Glyme EA course. O save up to 50%. Kasi di ba magka-Thanksgiving na ngayong Thursday? Magkano na ngayon? Mahal na pala. Traditional EA review. 699. 599. So kung 50%, ano na lang? O 500 na lang. Hindi naman to 50%. Ano ba to si ano? Diba? So 500, magkano yung 500 ngayon sa current exchange rate? Mga nasa 30, somewhere around that. But if you are really serious, might as well invest in it now, right? Parang pwede kayong mag-aral whenever you feel like Tapos pwede naman one at a time yung exam, right? You don't have to take the exam all together. So, pwede kayo mag-exam sa Korea, tapos pag ready na kayo mag-visit naman kayo ng Japan, tapos pag ready na kayo sa isa, or actually pwede namang dalawa lang eh. Kasi yung third portion, ang sobrang ang dali yun. So pwede nyo yung isabay yung pangatlo. So dalawang country lang. So una Korea, tapos after 6 months to a year maybe, gusto nyo mag-take naman ng the second and the third part, balik ka sa Japan para hindi kayo pabalik-balik sa Korea. Ibang country naman, di ba? Tapos sabay pasyal na lang din. Right? Para madagdagan yung 60 plus na current EA na nasa Philippines. Di ba? Tapos maging success story kayo ma-inspire yung ibang taga-BA mag-take ng EA. There's premium in EA guys. That's really, I'm telling you, there's premium pag EA kayo. Kung frustrated kayong CPA sa Philippines kasi hindi niyo maipasa yung exam, I would say forget about it. Just go EA. Pour your time, resources into just becoming an EA. Mas lucrative because you earn dollars. Mas ethical yung practice, diba? Kasi you don't have to go through the traditional, yung mga gawain sa BIR at remote, diba? Remote, you can do anywhere. Minsan nga at any time. So yeah, that's my encouragement for you guys. And yeah, usually this access has 2 years, pero kapag hindi ka pa pumasa, pwede kang mag-extend, right? Yung sa akin nga, to 2023 pa to eh. So 23, 24, 25, magti-26 na. So nag-extend ako ng 1 year kasi hindi ko naman sinabing pumasa na ako. Sabi ko lang, extend, I need more time. And then kagandahan sa kanya, meron na siyang libreng access to a CPE credits. So kasi pag enrolled agent na tayo, we need to maintain our license by renewing it every 3 years. And we need to have 72 CPEs in a span of 3 years. Right? So you need to earn the credit. So ito, meron siyang libre ng CPE that you can also take at in-honor naman to ni IRS. Reported kasi ito sa IRS. Right? So it serves a lot of purpose. Again, if you're considering, might as well buy it now para din kayo invested na ba? Kasi kung hindi pa kayo invested, parang walang commitment, di ba? Parang laging next time na yan, or next month na lang, or, you know. But if you're really serious, and I've been seeing you guys frequently in our sessions, so I think a lot of you are very, very serious about getting into US tax. Right? And then I think there's one, si Tin ba yun? Razol. I don't know if I say her name right. She's been posting a lot of job openings sa team ni Mel, right? Because really, it's again the hiring season now. But if you guys are not yet ready because you have my full-time job pa naman kayo, right? And you're taking your time naman to really learn before you eventually go into practice. Okay lang yan. The internship hopefully that Borderless will provide you and will also endorse you too, can help you for the next 12 months to prepare you eventually for the next year. Kasi minsan, when you feel like you already know and you're already confident about preparing tax return, it may be a two-edged sword, right? Because reality is, sa tax world, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, akala nyo, meron na kayong alam, but then when you start working, depends din sa firm na, or the clientele that your firm is servicing, you may end up getting burnt out kasi marami pala kayong hindi alam. And it happened to me, and it happened to one of you here, na premature ba? No, premature na we learn from the course and then nag-apply na hire na. But when actually working, ang daming ang daming stress na idulot because for one, hindi alam yung process internally, and then sa actual work, maraming hindi hindi pa alam, right? And then the expectation as well. So siyempre pag nag-apply na tayo, we kind of set the expectation sa employer na may alam na tayo ganyan. So kung if we project ourselves na say average learner already, hindi talaga beginner, yung expectation then is average, right? Or intermediate. So pag hindi mo alam yung isang bagay na ang tingin naman ng tax firm owner is basic lang, but you don't happen to know, parang mag-question mark inside niyo na bakit hindi mo alam, basic lang naman to, right? And to tell you honestly then, the course, while ours is very extensive, right? Yung iba nga, nakikita niyo yung iba nagpro-provide ng tax course weekly lang, once a week yung meeting, once a week yung imposible yung makover lahat ng topics and lahat ng areas in US taxation. So a lot of that can only be done when you're actually preparing return, right? Yung mga quirkiness of tax clients when you're actually preparing return. Hindi yan nakukuha sa training lang. So depende sa how you will navigate it, but I would not recommend na just because nag-train na kayo, mag-apply na kayo. I don't recommend that, but you can do that, of course, right? Depende sa lakas ng loob, depende din sa diskarte. But to set expectation, baka ma-burnout kayo, right? Because once you get to work, ang expectation na kasi dyan papasok, right? Mataas na yung expectation because of course you are being paid by the client. Tapos baka hindi pa kayo sinuwerte, mapunta kayo sa reviewer na hindi ganon ka open-minded na baguhan kayo, may put a lot of pressure on you as well, right? So may mga firms na ganon. So just make yourself, ready, and when you go out there, kung hindi pa naman ganon ka taas yung inyong yung learning, set the expectation properly, right? Kaya maganda yung naisip ko na internship because like for example with Brendan, hindi mataas yung expectation kasi pa naman siya magbabayad. Although sabi niya, guys, na he may hire someone na managerial level to supervise the process. But I told him, don't do it yet, right? Because you may end up getting stressed, right? Let the guys prove their worth. And then when you feel like nakakapag-add na naman na sila ng value, and then you're able to build the trust already and the confidence at work, then you offer them, right? So that's gonna be how what we're gonna do. And the same thing with Carol, because Carol's really serious about internship too, and she would even have a paid internship, like yung babayaran kayo. But I would already put some caution there to set expectation. Kasi baka pag nag-intern kayo, they're paying you, the firm is paying you, baka mataas yung expectation, diba? So ako personally, I would rather have an unpaid internship para makapag-provide ako ng value first before I ask for value in return. You get what I mean? Kasi pag binayaran mo na ako, taas na yung expectation, I have to deliver. You know what I mean? Okay na yung set the expectation low, under promise and then over deliver. You get what I mean? So, but again, it's not gonna preclude you from going out there and go to Online Jobs PH, go to Upwork, go to LinkedIn, get yourself noticed. And kung, may maswertehan kayong na makapag-proceed ng interview, just go for the interview, right? Just go for the interview. That would be a good practice. Nailing an interview, right? Makes you more comfortable answering tough questions, and it would give you a good sense of ano ba yung mga usual na tinatanong ng mga tax firms, di ba? And then you can make notes of it for you to make it, to be better. And then also, if you, would admit that you have really good, you will emphasize that you had really good training, because I really feel like we have a good training. And then, but you're a beginner. You know what I mean? You're a beginner. So you're willing to, instead of an employment, to go for rather an internship, be it a month internship, right? So an internship where you're very open to learning, training, working with a more experienced tax reviewer, and ano yun din, sabihin nyo na fast learner naman kayo, right? So, I mean, of course, you know yourself, right? So, fast learner, give it a shot, right? If you can set a really good impression dun sa nag-i-interview sa inyo, baka bigyan kayo ng internship, right? And then that internship may actually end up being an employment, right? So, because this is how it works with tax, unlike sa bookkeeping or even bookkeeping, you will learn when you're actually working already. Ganun sa tax talaga, right? 1 year, 2 years, like a lot of you are very, very talented and have very sharp eyes. For those who are really, really good at tax, 1 year is already good for you to, make yourself premium. When I say premium, you can command a really good price already after a year. I know someone, I connected with her through LinkedIn, and I actually spoke to her. She's doing US tax now. She started to do US bookkeeping, right? US bookkeeping, and then she eventually transitioned from the same firm. Nag-bookkeeping siya, tapos nag-transition siya to tax, right? And then after that, she made herself available sa other platforms, and she got double her rate, right? From her previous firm. Umalis na siya sa previous firm niya. So, just barely a year doing tax prep. Kasi ganun kabilis ang growth sa US tax. Again, the more that you're exposed to tax returns, the more confidence that you have, and premium kasi din talaga ang rate ng US tax preparers, unlike sa bookkeepers. Right? What more kung bookkeeper and tax preparer kayo, all the more ng premium yung magiging rate niyo. Right? Especially if you already have bookkeeping and tax experience in the Philippines, kasi that counts. Right? Kasi yung principles naman ng accounting and tax are the same. Right? May mga differences sa US, but the fundamental principles are the same. So that really counts. And of course, if I'm an employer and I've seen in your resume that you have 10, 20 years of experience doing accounting related jobs, I'm not gonna lowball you, right? I'm gonna give you a reasonable rate that commensurate to your experience and your credentials. You know what I mean? So that's it, guys. Go for it, because it's already end of November. You have 1 more month to go out there. And kung may mga current jobs pa kayo, don't consider leaving those yet. Okay? Take it as a part-time. Take it as an internship. Test the waters, right? Don't go all in just yet. That's my recommendation. But for those who are walang employment, like naghahanap talaga as in full-time, then go all in, right? Go to all these platforms, seek internship, because marami naman kayong time, right? Marami naman kayong time. And also let me know if you're also really available full time. I may need interns starting the busy season in January. Ideally one that can work nighttime, kasi I really work at night, right? I really work at night. But mind you, if you work, because the internship that I'm planning, by the way, guys, is you'll be working closely with the people that I would also train to become to help me with the internship. So Jade, Christina, JR. But I will take, so they will take interns, but I will also take interns directly reporting to me, right? But what I'm looking for really is someone who can work at night. Someone who I can touch base right away, or can touch base with me right away at night to ask questions para mas mabilis yung response. Again, importante yung may momentum, right? Because like personally, if I have questions and I'm in the middle of preparing a return, and then I have to compose a question, email it, and then I get an answer the following day, nasisira yung momentum ko, kasi pagka tanggap ko ng answer, nakalimutan ko na bakit ko nga tinanong to, diba? Or saan ko nga tong part tinanong, right? So I personally don't like that. So I like it when I'm preparing return, and then wait lang, hindi ko naman tinatanong agad-agad, right? So nag-prepare ako ng return, open items ako agad, and then I shoot a chat. And then if I receive a response right away, then I can go back to fresh pa sa memory ko ba. Kasi again, I as a person mabilis ako makalimot, right? So that works for me, and for someone who would want to work with me starting January, starting January, let me know, because my personal requirement will have to be working US hours. Hindi naman para marami akong slot na pwedeng mabigay, hindi naman full time, right? Like 9 to 5, hindi naman ganon. So we can do 2 hours, 2 hours, right? So if may mga return ako na pwedeng i-assign, one return, one person, right? And then for tax returns naman, usually hindi naman yan, ang turnaround time ng tax return, hindi naman right on the same day. That's not the expectation. Usually tax return is the following day. Minsan nga next 2 days, depends on the complexity of the return. So hindi naman like kailangan mo talagang pag nag-work ka ng return, kailangan mo talagang spend the entire night. So if you're like someone who is okay to work at 9 to 11, you're someone who wants to, you're available at 11 to 1, and then you're someone who wants one, depends, right? That could be arranged. And the reason why I'm sharing this video is patapos na kasi tayo, guys, of course, right? We're almost done. We're gonna speed things up because I'm hoping that we be done by Friday, right? We'll be done by Friday, and then we'll take a break first week of December to plan, and then I also want to take a personal break third and fourth week of December, right? So that's the reason why I'm sharing all these things to you. Question so far? Clarification? Sherry, I'm already thinking of you because you're graveyard. King as well. I'm already thinking of you as well because alam ko kayo yung mga alam kong gising ng same oras as I am. What else did I think of? Nakalimutan ko na yung nasa sa head ko. But usually tax season pala, we work more than 8 hours. Like I work more than 14, 15 hours because it's really busy. Busy season, many tax returns to prepare. And also the goal is to get as many clients as possible na hindi ako yung mag-work, right? What I'm accepting now is yung mga clients na okay sila for an internship, right? So I'm entertaining interviews where the firm owner is open or alam nila no yung borderless accountant. Lagi kong ini-inject yung borderless accountant. I am running this community. I have this Facebook page. We have this YouTube page so you can watch our training para aware sila what to expect, right? So parang ginawa ko ng portfolio ang borderless accountants just so they have comfort, no? Na yung level of training naman natin ay talagang hands-on and they can rely upon, diba? So this is the first year, diba? Pag it works, then I'm expecting a really good year next year. All right. So having said that, bookkeeping, actually yung kay Brendan, a lot of it is bookkeeping, right? Yung kay Brendan, a lot of it is bookkeeping, and panoorin niyo yung Loom recording, Cheso and the rest of the guys. He's got an excellent process on bookkeeping. I was impressed with the process. I know that that process has not been executed 100%, but if that was executed 100%, it's gonna be awesome. And tingin ko naman ang dami niyang clients actually. Ang dami niyang clients. So that could really help you guys. Kaya nakasalalay kina Chris G, kina Joanne, kina Efren, kina Jonathan, kina Miles, yung first 5 na mag-intern kay Brendan, magpakitang gilas, right? Para mas marami pang interns na pwedeng ma-entertain si Brendan, especially on books. And I know he's really good good tool on tax planning kasi nagta-tax planning din siya. And that's a really good one to learn. And Brendan right now is like he's not the best in terms of like temper, but if you guys can make the most out of his brain, right? Like just be patient with him and sabayan niyo yung level of energy niya. You will learn a lot from the guy, right? You will learn a lot from the guy. Ang dami niyang alam, ang dami niyang AI tools. He invests in AI tools. Yeah, I mean he's doing ano ba yung tax planning na tool? I forgot. I'm sorry, but he's pretty good at it. He's good kaya yung expectation niya din sa mga tao mataas, you know what I mean? So that when he start hiring and then hindi nagde-deliver yung mga tao, or hindi siya masabayan ba? Yung energy niya, yung knowledge niya hindi masabayan, he ends up getting frustrated. Tapos he looks for another one na naman. Right? It looks, and I know his pain, right? I know his pain. Kaya and I know there's a lot of you guys are really, really are talented in this community. And if we can take advantage of that for both sides, right? Like you learn from him, and then you also, because you learn a lot from him, you're able to help his clients, and he's able to grow his practice, diba? So comes both sides or both ways. So, and there is a lot of things that he can teach you that I cannot teach, right? Because I have not done tax planning. Right? Tax planning is different from tax strategy. Alam ko na Corvette, something. If you heard of it, it's a tax planning tool that he has. And mas marami siyang alam, guys, kaysa sa akin. Way, way more than I know. And so, we'll keep impressing him. We'll keep impressing him so that it will lead to more opportunities for internship for the rest of the folks at Board of Accountants. Okay. So I don't know where to stop. Well, okay na tayo. Ang tayong question, no? So sa mga night owls dyan, abang-abang tayo. Sa dami ng apps and tools. Oo nga eh. But ganun talaga sa Core V pala. Bakit Corvette? Corvette is sasakyan pala yun. Core V. Obviously, I haven't used it. I have heard of it many times. Kasi lagi itong nami-mention ng mga tax firm owners that I was working before. Because it was also the goal for me to do tax planning. But hindi ako umabot sa tax planning. Kasi I moved from one firm to another almost every year. That's how I also learn a lot of things, right? But hindi ako umabot na nag-mature ako to be ready for tax planning. But it could be for one of you, maybe more than one of you, right? Na gusto niyo mag-mature to a point na gusto niyo kaya niyong aralin yung tax planning, right? So intern, I feel like Chris, yeah, and I know he's a good guy too. All right. By the way, he's in Hawaii. Ang Hawaii pala, ibang time zone sila. Oh, it's very weird. Like 8 p.m. his time earlier when we met. That's 2 p.m. our time. So, ang hirap ng timing. I feel like mas mahirap ang timing kapag Hawaii. But it's okay. Hindi naman siya yung required na the same hours kayo. But during training lang, required na may overlap para siya mismo magti-train. You know what I mean? And siya mismo yung mapagtatanungan niyo. Okay. So, let's proceed now to S Corp. Tapos na tayo sa 1065, guys, ha. Meron na tayong practice noon. Na-explain ko na yung K1, yung M1, M2 updates. Yung most of the items that are not in the 1065 return, like, or it should not be entered in a P&L of 1065, like yung interest income, right? That should always be entered in the Schedule K right? Because that's gonna flow through to directly to the partner. Charitable contribution, right? That's also gonna be in Schedule K. Entertainment, 50% ng meals, right? Guaranteed payments. So those are the most common ones that you will encounter in a Form 1065. There will be more, but we are not gonna tackle that because it's just a lot, right? And depends naman yan sa tax firm that you will be working for. And if baguhan kayo, don't work for complex returns, right? The ones that we're doing at WITA, complex 1065 and 1120S, you guys. Sakit sa ulo. But in my first 5 years, 1120S, 1065, bilis-bilis ko lang gawin yan. Right? Kasi P&L lang, tapos work paper, copy-paste, tapos yun na. Right? So hindi siya ganun ka-complex. I find individual much more complex kasi mas maraming situation si client na possible hindi kayo hindi na uulit pa. Kaya mahirap i-familiarize. Alright, so we now go with S Corp. Isang topic lang naman yung S Corp here. And then kung kaya natin, gawin na rin natin to. Tomorrow, by the way, I cannot meet with you again. But we'll meet Thursday and Friday kasi fortunately wala kaming work. So wala akong kailangan habulin. Kasi nga 'di ba Thanksgiving ang US ng Thursday. And usually Friday they also honor that as an off. Yeah, 1065 sabi ni Shoni kasi si Shoni babad to sa 1040 last time eh. So mas mabilis ang 1065 lalo ang 1120S guys. Sa alam niyo lang yung P&L, may work paper lang kayo para easy yung review. Yun na. Lalo na pag repeat clients. Okay. So let's just breeze through this presentation in S Corp and let me know if you have questions. Huh?
S corporations, or simply S corps, are a hybrid of partnerships and corporations. They are not subject to federal income tax and pass on income deductions and credits to their shareholders. In this study unit, we'll go through an S corp's specific rules. Not every corp is eligible to be an S corp. We'll see how an S corp differs from a C corp in terms of how it distributes income. For S corps, your key form is Form 1120S. We'll also go through some important terms and computations known as AAA and OAA. Don't worry, this will all make sense shortly. Let's get into it. Hello. All right, so let's talk about S corporations, or as we typically say in practice, S corps. An S corp is generally not subject to federal tax on its income. Instead, the corporation's items of income, loss, deduction, and credits are passed through to its shareholders on a per day and per share basis. Each shareholder is taxed on their share of the S corporation's income as it's earned. Distributions of cash or property generally are not income to its shareholders. So how does a corporation become an S corporation? Let's start with eligibility. A corporation is treated as an S corporation only for those days when each specific eligibility requirement is met and the required election is effective. Eligibility depends on the nature of the corporation, its shareholders, and its stock. An S corporation must have only one class of stock, meaning the outstanding shares must be identical in terms of rights to profits and assets on liquidation or distribution. However, variations in voting rights are permitted. The number of shareholders cannot exceed 100, and related taxpayers and their estates are considered a single shareholder. Non-resident aliens cannot own shares, and each shareholder must be an individual, an estate, or a qualified trust. The corporation must be domestic and eligible, and certain types of corporations, like insurance companies, are ineligible. An eligible corporation must make the election by having all shareholders at the time of the election file a consent form. This is done by signing Form 2553. The election must be made within the first 2.5 months from the beginning of the corporation's tax year to be effective from the first day of that tax year. If made after this period, it becomes effective on the first day following the tax year. The IRS can treat a late filed election as timely if reasonable cause is shown. Now, you might ask, what happens if the S corporation election is terminated? Upon the occurrence of a terminating event, an S corporation becomes a C corporation. Termination can happen due to an effective revocation by shareholders holding more than 50% of the stock, failure to meet eligibility requirements, or passive investment income, or PII termination. PII termination occurs when, for 3 consecutive tax years, the corporation has both Subchapter C earnings and profits, or E&P, and PII greater than 25% of gross receipts. If an election is terminated, a new election cannot be made for 5 tax years without the consent of the IRS. However, the IRS may waive termination if the terminating event was inadvertent and corrected within a reasonable time. An S corporation is not required to use the accrual method. The accounting method election is generally made by the S corporation, but shareholders personally elect certain items like the credit or deduction for foreign income taxes. An S corporation generally must adopt a calendar tax year, but with IRS consent, it may adopt a fiscal year if it establishes a valid business purpose. The tax treatment of S corporation items is determined at the corporate level, and the S corporation files a Form 1120-S tax return. Each shareholder must report their pro rata share of items on their personal tax return. All right, my friends, that's the overview here to be effective.
Before he ends, let me emphasize some points here. So election, hindi yan election for 2028. Charet. You already know what's a disregarded entity, right? So a disregarded entity is, or an SMLLC, needs to file an election for it to be classified as an S corp, right? So they must always file an election. Kapag one business owner, ang default ni IRS, di ba? Remember this, is disregarded entity or SMLLC. Kapag more than pag 2 naman, right? Pag 2 people naman, default ni IRS is partnership, right? So default niya 1065. So an election must always be done. A 2553 form must always be filled out by an LLC categorized as SMLLC by the IRS or a partnership, right? Kung ayaw nilang maging partnership because they want an S corp, then they have to file an election. And it's very relevant to you, especially yung mga nagbo-bookkeeping already. Kaya lagi kong mina-mention to in our sessions that you need to know what type of LLC is your, or what type of taxpayer is the taxpayer filing for the business, right? Kasi you're doing the books, but you don't know if that if that book that you're filing for is gonna file for a partnership, an a Schedule C or a Schedule E, if it's rental, or an 1120S or maybe an 1120, right? So it would be nice for you to check with your clients. Hey, client, what tax form are you filing for this business, right? And maybe you can help, right? Maybe you can help. And one common scenario that I see is nakikita ko yung tax return or 1040 return ni client, and then Schedule C pa din yung business niya even if the income is already 100,000 and above. Right? Minsan nga nagto 200 na, tapos nagugulat ako bakit Schedule C pa din ito. Right? Because guys, one reason S corp was created is for taxpayers to grow their business without having to pay so much taxes. Right? Kasi kung Schedule C, automatic, di ba? 15.3% yung self-employment tax. Right? 15.3% on top pa yun sa binabayarang tax na income tax overall ni client. You get what I'm saying? So there's effectively double taxation there. Tinax na yung income mo sa Schedule C, itatax ka pa niyan sa income tax bracket mo. Right? So that's what happened with Schedule C. However, if they transition to an S Corp, remember at the beginning of this video, S Corp is a non-taxable entity, right? It's a non-taxable entity and the income flows through to the taxpayer on the individual tax return via their K1, right? So they get away with 15.3% na self-employment tax. So that's one benefit there. And then there are also benefits other than that is available to S Corp owners. One of that is self-employment insurance, and then yung self-employment retirement accounts, which we will cover at a much later time. There are advantages, right? But there is no absolute figure that can tell you when is best for a taxpayer to make the S Corp election. Kasi you may be confronted with this question by the taxpayer, like, when is the best time for me to switch from being an S Corp or being a Schedule C filer to an S Corp? And generally, in the previous firm that I worked with, we would say 100K. If it's above 100K, then it would be best for you to transition to an S Corp because now you can see the benefit, right? But below that, parang halos pareho lang din, right? Medyo mas mahal pa nga kapag mag-S Corp kasi separate ang charge ng engagement fee for an S Corp. Mas mahal, right? And then, you have yearly compliances with the IRS. So, hindi lahat ng entities must file an S Corp kung minimal pa lang naman yung income nila, right? So, usually, for a business owner, kapag may LLC siya, magsastart muna yan ng S Corp. Ng Schedule C. Right? Kasi loss pa lang din naman yan siya eh. Diba? So, isa lang din yung babayaran yung tax return preparation fee because it's just one schedule sa kanyang 1040. But over time, when you start seeing that the client is making a substantial amount of income on the books that you're maintaining, it may be worth asking the client, hey client, I already know how to do tax preparation, and I want to know, are you filing an 1120S or a 1065 on a yearly basis apart from your personal tax return? That may catch the attention of the client that you're doing bookkeeping for, right? Like, how come you know these things, right? Well, I'm studying tax return or tax preparation, right? And again, you might be able to convert that bookkeeping client to a tax preparation client. And when you see that your client is again a Schedule C filer, and you would recommend for that taxpayer client to convert or to elect a form 2553, you have to remember the election period. So it has to be within the first 2 months and 15 days of the current year. So what does it say? For kasi late na ngayon, diba? 2025 November na. So for 2026, if they want to switch from a Schedule C filer to an 1120S, they have until March 15 next year to make their election effective as of January 1 of 2026. You know what I mean? So pwede silang maging S-Corp na filer for 2026. Now, what if hindi later na ng March 15 na decide si client na mag S-Corp? Kasi nakita nyo, ay, magbe-breach ka this year na. Let's say for example, November na, right? November this year. Take 2025 as an example. You're doing the bookkeeping for that client. Nakita nyo, nag-breach na siya ng 100K income, net income. Tapos alam nyo na C-Corp pa sila. Or, why do I say C-Corp? Schedule C filer pa sila. There is still time. There is still time to recommend to that client na, hey client, why don't we file a naging Bisaya na, late election. So pwedeng mag-late 2553 election. Kailangan nyo lang i-justify, right? Na pwede nga doon na hindi, as a taxpayer, I didn't know that there is a time limit for an election. So I have always wanted to do I've always wanted to operate as an S corp. I just didn't know that I had a deadline to file it. Pwede yung ganung reasoning. You know, I have an experience like that na honor naman ni IRS. Right? So when you fill out the 2553, pwede naman yung mag-download kayo ng form sa IRS. Actually, I'm gonna show you that. Right? I-google nyo na lang. Downloadable 2553 election form. Yan. So, i-download nyo, tapos fill upan nyo lang. And then, the usual way is for them to mail it, to send it to the IRS. Depends kung naasan sila. May instruction naman to eh. Kung saan i-mail. So fill out nyo lang to with the information that you have from the client. The state of incorporation, usually nila yan. So pag late, dito yung explanation. Right? And usually, what I do, kapag nag-2553 ako, I just do it from the tax software. Kasi pwede naman yan sa tax software na para pre-filled na tong information to ni client. Pero kung wala, like wala kayong existing tax software that you use, do this. And then information ni shareholder. And then let's see kung saan to email. Depends sa address, no? Depends yan sa address ni taxpayer. Kasi may dalawa lang na office yung IRS, right? So, what are the two IRS addresses to mail IRS tax forms such as 2553? Oh, shoot. Wait lang. Alam ko meron tong instruction sa form 2848. Dito na lang. So, downloadable 2848. So, 2848 naman is power of attorney. Kapag EA na kayo, this is what you will fill out and either mail, fax to the IRS para maging para you can represent the taxpayer on his or her behalf. Tapos ito yung na-mention kanina sa email, yung CAF number. So this is what you fill out if you're an EA, your PTIN, right? And then dito yung designation nyo. So designation is A kapag CPA, B kapag, or A kapag lawyer, B kapag CPA, C naman kapag enrolled agent. And this is where kapag lawyer, state ata ang magla-license sa inyo, even also the CPA. Pag enrolled agent, ang lalagay dito is IRS kasi IRS yung nagbibigay ng enrolled agent license. Tapos yung EA number, and then you will sign it. Tapos, wait lang, wala din dito. Instruction. Wait lang. Yeah, actually, that was the reason why I showed you 2848. Yung pala yan. So, downloadable PDF, IRS mailing instruction. Okay, here. So, ito yung mas ano. So, again, dalawang address lang. Kung ang address ni taxpayer is any of this state, right? Any of the state, ito yung address na gagamitin mo na kung saan nila email yung form. Yeah, so Tennessee. Somewhere kapag ano ba yung Arkansas, Connecticut, somewhere in the east, right? Pag eastern side ng US, Tennessee yung kanilang kung saan sila mag-mail ng forms, right? On the side of the west naman, Utah, right? So ito lang yung dalawang address. So don't blankly use Utah because what if New York pays yung client, right? So dapat Tennessee na address yung gagamitin mo, right? And also the phone numbers, they are different. So there are instances where you will have to call the IRS on behalf of your client, and you can. The question is, can you call the IRS on behalf of your client? Even if you don't have a 2848, yes. Kapag kayo yung nag-prepare ng return, ay allow kayo ng IRS to represent the client even if you don't have a 2848 at hindi kayo enrolled agent. Pag kayo yung nag-prepare ng return, how will the IRS know na kayo yung nag-prepare ng return? Kung may P10 nyo yung form, right? You will fill out the form, di ba? When you prepare the return, you will put there your P10 or the prepares tax identification number. Then you can call the IRS on behalf of the client. So that's the number to call. Again, alamin niyo yung address ni taxpayer. Make sense? And then how do you call the IRS? Marami namang way. May mga, yung Zoom nga pala, ngayon ko lang alam na yung Zoom na application, pwedeng may phone number na naka-subscribe ka doon sa Zoom. Depende sa level ng subscription. So may mga soft phone that you can call the IRS. Ang mga subscription. Google Voice nga eh. Pwede sa Google Voice. Right, so that's the election. And one last thing about election. If you happen to handle a client na first time niya magpa-file ng tax return, as in first time na magpa-file ng tax return, this may apply, diba? Kasi again, yung mga taxpayers hindi naman nila alam technically kung ano talaga yung form na i-file nila. Right? So if you come across first time filer, kasi first time na ding mag-set up ng business, right? And you may get this because these are the type of people or type of client that will hire someone from Upwork, right? Na yung mga first time owner kasi hindi nila alam gagawin, di ba? Kasi first time nila mag-file. The first thing that you need to ask again, the type of LLC that they have registered, right? If they don't know, that's why you ask for the EIN letter, right? If they don't have the EIN letter, call the IRS, right? So only then will you start preparing for the return. Kasi baka akala nila S-Corp yung i-file nila, ngayon yun pala disregarded entity, right? So masasayang naman yung oras yun, nag-prepare kayo ng S-Corp 1120S when the requirement was actually a Schedule C. Diba? So make sure that before you engage a client, that's one of the first few questions that you will ask. Okay? And then ask then, no, if the intention pala ni client ay magpa-file siya ng 1120S, pero hindi niya nga din alam na kailangan niya mag-file ng election, right? So, one thing that you will ask, hey client, what is your intention in wanting to file for an 1120S? Me, I know your expectation of income for this year. Pag sinabi niya namang, wala man na akong income this year because I'm starting up, di ba? Usually ganun yung mga businesses. I'm starting up a business, I have so many expenses and I don't even have an income, right? So, kapag sinabi niya, I wanna file an 1120S, tapos hindi pa naman siya nag-file ng election, please tell the client what, I mean, I don't suggest that you do an 1120S filing and even an election. Let's just stick with a Schedule C for now, right? Because it's only gonna make you pay for a professional fee that you don't really need, right? So tell your client, I can help you file a tax return, a 1040 return with a Schedule C. That's okay. We don't need an 1120S just yet. Pero pag sinabi ni client, oh, I'm expecting to have an income of about 100K this year. Oh, then that's when you suggest, okay, well, let's go ahead and file an 1120S election. And if it's already late, that's fine. You can still file a late election, right? Meron nga nag-crossover na ng year, ina-allow pa rin ni IRS na mag-late election for as long as wala pang na-file na tax return, right? So, merong mga instances na nag-crossover na ng year na ina-allow ng IRS na mag-effective as of the January 1st of the previous year. So, subukan nyo lang. Right? And this is very common when dealing with 1120S.
From the first day of that tax year.
All right. Yung the rest, it's not relevant so much.
The shareholders of Hope Inc. and S Corporation.
Prepare kayo na answer.
The shareholders of Hope Inc. and S Corporation wish to revoke its S election effective at the end of the current year. The total number of shares issued and outstanding at the time of the election is 100,000 shares. Which of the following shareholders are required to consent to have the S Corporation election revoked? Okay, so the trick on the S revocation is that it has to be more than 50%. So if it's 100,000 shares, Dana owns 50,000 shares, she has 50%. She can't do it on her own. And Bob and Sally can't get together and do it on their own either. So the question here says, which of the following required to consent? Well, it would be nice if all of them agreed, because you've really only got 3 shareholders here, but that's not what's actually required. What is required here is Dana and 1 other shareholder. So C is our answer.
Right. I have never encountered an S Corp revocation, guys. It's very uncommon. And usually S Corp, ang owner isa lang din talaga. Usually, ha? I don't think I've ever encountered an S Corp return that I prepared na dalawa yung owners. So usually isa lang yan. Kasi ang S Corp usually nag-transition yan from Schedule C to an S Corporation. Bihirang-bihira na S Corp election agad from the inception of the LLC. Bihirang-bihira yan, guys. So yung question na yun, very theoretical lang yan.
Tao Corporation, which has been operating for 15 years, has an October 31 year end, which coincides with its natural business year. On May 15 of this year, Tao filed the required form to elect S Corporation status. All of Tao's shareholders consented to the election, and all other requirements were met. The earliest date that Tao can be recognized as an S corporation is, okay, can it be retroactive, which would be option A? Can you do a mid-year, May 15th? Is it November 15th of this year, or November 1st of this year, or November 1st of next year? With S elections, my friends, it is 2 months and 15 days. So why do I write it like that? Because the way that it's written, it says 2.5 months, a lot of people knee jerk and think, oh, that's if we were December 31 year end, that's February 15th, right? 2 months and 15 days. So that would be January, February, and then March 15th, right? That would be 2 months and 15 days. So that's just kind of something that I've seen teaching my students over the
Pagulo
years.
din
That
ng
if we
IRS, no? Bakit kasi 2 months and 15 days? Bakit hindi na lang sinabing March 15? Anyways.
say 2.5 months, a lot of people visualize February 15th. It's actually be March 15th for a calendar year-end taxpayer. This isn't a calendar year-end taxpayer. It's an October 31 year-end. So if it's an October 31 year-end, we would have had to file the S election to be effective for November 1st of last year, right? It would have had to have been filed within 2.5 months. So October 31st, we've got November, December, January 15th. They didn't do it until May 15th of this year. So the soonest that they could possibly do it would be November 1st of this year, which is a little funky to think about because their tax period, right, May 15th of this year would be, to put this in perspective, right, we've got 10/31, let's say 2025 to or excuse me, 11.
Gets ko na bakit kaya 2 months and 15 kasi meron palang fiscal year end, ano. Hindi naman lahat ng taxpayer ay calendar year. Although I have not seen a fiscal year in a taxpayer. But kaya 2 months hindi naging fixed na Feb 15 or March 15 because of the fiscal year and option for a time period. Anyway.
2025 to 10/31/26. So they made the election on May 15, 26, which would be this year, is what they're talking about, right? So can they make that then retroactive to the 10/1 or the 11/1, excuse me? No, they can't because they missed it. They should have done that within 2 months and 15 days, and they didn't do that. So this election that they made cannot possibly go in this tax year. It would have to go into the next one. Now it's confusing because it says November 1 of next year, but it would technically be their 11/1/26 tax year that would start right about there. So it's November 1 of this year. C as our answer.
Okay. Pag hindi nilagay doon, regular election kasi yun, pwedeng mag-late filing election. And kung gusto nila mag-retroactive, pwede naman.
Let's talk about the operations of S corporations, starting with the basics. An S corporation is generally not subject to federal tax on its income. Instead, the corporation's items of income, loss, deduction, and credits are passed through to its shareholders on a per day and per share basis. Each shareholder is taxed on their share of the S corporation's income as it is earned. Distributions of cash or property generally are not income to its shareholders. Provisions that govern taxation of C corporations also govern taxation of S corporations unless a specific exception applies. S corporations are expressly exempt from corporate income tax, accumulated earnings tax or AET, and personal holding company or PHC tax. The items of income, deduction, and credit of an S corporation are reported by the corporation. A shareholder is required to take their pro rata share of items passed through into account when computing their personal taxable income for the tax year within which the S corporation's tax year ended. Separately stated items include Section 1231 gains and losses, net short-term and long-term capital gains and losses, dividends, charitable contributions, taxes paid to a foreign country, tax-exempt interest, investment income, and many more. Because an S corporation is a flow-through entity, Some items have special rules like debt discharge. Ordinarily, a taxpayer realizes income when indebtedness is forgiven or canceled. However, if the discharge of debt occurs in a bankruptcy case, when the taxpayer is insolvent, or with respect to qualified real property business indebtedness, the income realized upon the discharge is excluded from income. S corporation's income from the discharge of indebtedness that is excluded from the S corporation's income is not taken into account as an item of income by any shareholder and does not increase the basis of any shareholder's stock. Carryovers, such as net operating losses, often abbreviated NOLs, between S corporations and C corporations are not permitted. This rule applies to corporations that change their status from C to S or from S to C. The QBID, or Qualified Business Income Deduction, for an S corporation is determined at the shareholder level. To allow shareholders to correctly figure the deduction on their Form 1040 return, the S corporation must report the necessary information on the shareholder's Schedule K-1. Now, generally, if a shareholder purchases stock, the original basis is its cost. If stock is received in exchange for property, the basis is the same as the property's basis. If a shareholder lends money to the S corporation, the basis is usually the amount of the loan, creating a debt basis. If a shareholder guarantees a third-party loan, the loan does not increase the shareholder's basis unless the shareholder makes payments on that loan. At-risk rules are applied at the shareholder level. Any excess of a shareholder's pro rata share of passed-through losses over their amount at risk is not deductible in the current tax year and is carried forward indefinitely. Passive activity loss rules limit the current deductibility of losses passed through to passive activity income if the shareholder does not materially participate in the trade or business conducted by that S corporation. If the S corporation's total receipts and total assets at the end of the year are less than $250,000, the corporation is not required to complete the balance sheet and the reconciliation of income per book.
This is what I was talking about, guys. So, kung ang S Corp ay less than 250K, yung Schedule L, which is the balance sheet, and the M1, M2 reconciliation is not required. It's completely optional, right? Kaya, maraming mga tax firms, usually kasi 1120S yung piniprepare, bihira yung 1065. Simple, super simple lang yung 1120S, guys. Prepare lang kayo ng P&L, extract nyo sa QuickBooks, and then copy and paste sa tax return, done na. Right? So, super simple ng 1120S. Lalo na kapag ganito ang income level, wala na kayong prepare na balance sheet.
With income per the return. An S corporation's tax return is due by the 15th day of the third month after the end of the corporation's tax year. An application for an extension can be filed on Form 7004, granting a 6-month extension. The penalty for failure to file is applied on a per shareholder basis for each month the return is late,
right?
Up to
Be
12
wary
months.
With the deadline because malaki ang penalty kapag late ang filing ng business return. This also applies for 1065. And mind you, the penalty is per month, per partner. So, imagine yung 1065 natin na return na prepare, yung 26 partners. Kung delayed yon, that was per month charging. I think that $225 per partner per month. Right? So that's a lot of penalty. So usually to get away with the penalty, pag hindi natin alam, or alam natin na hindi natin ma-prepare on time yung return, mag-file na agad ng extension. Right? So the 6 months extension has to be filed timely then. Now you cannot file an extension kung nag-pass na yung deadline. So March 15 yung deadline, di ba? Dapat na-file na yung extension before March 15. Kasi kung nag-file kayo ng extension March 16, it's no longer an extension. right? So any return filed after that is already late, right? So ang best na lang na gawin kasi nag-file na late na nag-file is i-file as soon as possible para hindi mag per month yung penalty. You know what I mean? But be very conscious about the deadline. And then if ever first time you mag-prepare, nakalimutan yung extension, don't worry kasi kung first time pa lang naman, may tinatawag si IRS na first time penalty abatement. So kung first time na nag-delay, walang masyadong chichibureche. Itawag na lang ng taxpayer or kahit kayo tumawag sa IRS, mag-avail ng first time penalty abatement right there and then i-abate yun ng agent on the phone. Pero kung pangalawang beses na, ay hindi na pwedeng i-abate yan. So first time penalty abatement, although sinasabi first time, but the catch there is every 3 years yon. So kung walang late filing for the past 3 years, kung compliant naman si taxpayer, pwedeng mag-abate. Kung the following year, hindi pa rin compliant, hindi na pwedeng i-abate. Mag-wait naman siya ng another 3 years. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that you need to know about the due date and the penalty. Okay. Again, this applies to 1065 returns as well.
If tax is due, the penalty is the amount stated plus 5% of the unpaid tax for each month the return is late, up to a maximum of 25% of the unpaid tax. Note this penalty amount adjusts for inflation each year, so please check your Glime Knowledge Transfer outline for the current penalty amount rate. All right. Well, I hope you found this overview helpful, and thanks for watching.
But as far as I know, the last time I checked,
what is the non-separately stated?
Sorry, the last time I checked, it was 225. It could be subject for change the following year, so don't quote me on that.
What is the non-separately stated income amount of a calendar year S corporation operating on an accrual basis with the following items? So we have gross receipts, interest income, royalty income, and salary paid to a shareholder. Okay, so there's a lot of confusing stuff going on, especially once you get to this point. This is the real key of this question. What is the non-separately stated income? The non-separately stated income is what is the ordinary income. So interest and royalties, that's really no companies for the most part are in the business of earning royalties and earning interest. We can see that clearly they are in this business here, whatever their gross income is. So we're going to take the $300,000 and subtract the salary paid to the shareholder, because that is a legitimate business expense, which gets us down to $280,000. The other two items, the interest income and the royalty income, those are definitely separately stated items. All right, so little trick.
One takeaway from this is that yung gross receipt at saka yung salary paid to shareholder, this will go to the P&L, yung main P&L ng return. Diba? Yung interest income, it's a separate active business activity, then that would go to their K1, right? It will go to Schedule K. Itong royalty income, there is a separate schedule for royalty income naman, right? Kasi hindi nga yan yung primary purpose ng business.
To help kind of figure out what are the separately stated or non-separately stated, what are you in the business of? 280, D's our answer. With regard to an S corporation and its shareholders, the at-risk rules applicable to losses: A, take into consideration the S corporation's ratio of debt to equity. B, apply to the shareholder level rather than at the corporate level. C, are subject to the elections made by the S corporation's shareholders. Or D, depend on the type of income reported by the S corporation. So fundamentally, take a step back. What is an S corporation? An S corporation is a flow-through entity. It is just simply acting as a conduit and passes through a K1 the income and loss to its shareholders. So is the S corporation really doing anything other than just acting as a conduit? If I am invested in a business, how much do I stand to lose? Is that really dependent on the corporation? Or is that going to be applicable to me as a shareholder with what do I stand to lose on this flow through entity. So B to me is really resonating, and B is actually the correct answer here. So sometimes you got to take a step back and think about, what is this type of entity? What purpose does it serve? Who pays the tax? Now let's reason through these other ones. Would debt to equity matter? Perhaps not. What if you have a ton of debt, but it is at a very low interest rate and you're covering that? I don't think that that's going to be a big consideration if we reason through it that way. C. This C would almost make it seem like subject to the elections made by the S corporation shareholders. Well, we just elect in or out of the tax law? Well, obviously that's not going to work, right? And then finally, D, depend on the type of income reported by the S corporation. We know that S corporations have business and non-business or separately stated items, and they have ordinary income items. So B ends up being the absolute correct answer, but I think just through reasoning and thinking about that fundamental of, well, what is this type of business, can really help us answer some of these questions. So we'll select B and move on to the next one.
Pusin na lang natin to. This is going to be short. Distributions. This is the last topic.
Let's explore distributions from S corporations. These include non-liquidating and liquidating distributions of money or other property, but not of the S corporation's own stock or obligations. The amount of a particular distribution is the sum of any money plus the fair market value, or FMV, of property distributed. We need to understand the AAA and OAA accounts. S corporations maintain two types of records for each shareholder. The AAA account, which is the accumulated adjustments account, and then the OAA account, which is the other adjustments account. These records, along with a shareholder's basis in their stock and any subchapter C earnings and profits, or E&P, in a corporation, are used to determine the shareholder's tax treatment of distributions. You'll notice these accounts and how they are calculated, they don't necessarily match taxable income of the S corporation. The AAA account represents the current cumulative balance of all the separately stated items and non-separately stated items, which would be ordinary, of the S corporation. Adjustments to the AAA parallel those made to the shareholder's basis for these items. Here's how it works. The AAA is increased by the S corporation's income items, including tax-exempt income that are separately stated. It also increases by any non-separately stated items of the S corporation. The amount of the deduction for depletion, other than oil and gas, that is more than the basis of the property being depleted also increases the AAA. The AAA is decreased by the S corporation's separately stated loss and deduction items. It also decreases by any non-separately stated loss of the S corporation. Expenditures that are not deductible by the S corporation, such as charitable contributions, also reduce the AAA. The reduction is equal to the adjusted basis of the contributed property rather than its fair market value. The AAA is not affected by any transactions related to when the corporation was a C corporation, such as federal income tax. The AAA is not adjusted for tax-exempt income or non-deductible expenses related to tax-exempt income. These adjustments are made to the OAA, the other adjustments account. The AAA balance can be reduced below zero, but the basis in the shareholder's stock cannot be below zero. Distributions do not reduce the AAA below zero. So let's say an S corporation has the following items for the year. We have $50,000 of ordinary income, $10,000 of tax-exempt interest, $5,000 of charitable contributions, $2,000 of non-deductible expenses related to the tax-exempt interest. So here's how the AAA would be adjusted. We would do an increase. The AAA is increased by the $50,000 of ordinary income. The AAA is decreased by the $5,000 of charitable contributions using the adjusted basis of the contributed property. There's no adjustment for the $10,000 of tax-exempt interest income and the $2,000 of non-deductible expenses related to tax-exempt income. These don't affect the AAA. These adjustments are made to the OAA instead. So the net increase to the AAA would be $50,000 of ordinary income, less the $5,000 of charitable contributions, which would give us $45,000. All right. So now let's talk about the other adjustments account, or OAA, and how adjustments are made to it. The OAA represents a cumulative balance of certain tax-exempt items and related expenses. Here's how it works. The OAA is increased by tax-exempt interest income earned by the S corporation. It also increases by life insurance proceeds received by the S corporation. The OAA is decreased by expenses incurred in earning tax-exempt income. It also decreases by any non-deductible expenses related to the tax-exempt income. All right, so continuing on with our example, we captured everything in AAA except the $10,000 of tax-exempt interest income and the $2,000 of non-deductible expenses related to the tax-exempt interest. The OAA is increased by the $10,000 of tax-exempt interest and then decreased by the $2,000 of non-deductible expenses related to the tax-exempt interest income. So the net of OAA increase would be $8,000. When an S corporation distributes appreciated property, which would happen when
Guys,
the fair
before I forget, the AAA and the OAA, those are automatically calculated by the software. So you don't have to manually calculate it. OAA is very uncommon because only when they transition from a C Corp to an S Corp, it's very rare. So there's really nothing that I would say in practice that you need to remember about these, because it's not even discussed with the client, right? It's very straightforward. Whatever comes out of the return, once you input all the returns and all those separately stated income, those will automatically get calculated, okay? So unless you will take the exam, you'll have to remember these things. But if you're practicing those things, these things are purely theoretical.
Market value is greater than the basis, it recognizes gain as if the property were sold to the shareholder at its fair market value. This gain is passed through pro rata to each shareholder, increasing their basis in the stock and the AAA. If lost property, basis in this case would be greater than the fair market value. If that lost property is distributed, no loss is recognized by the S corporation. The loss is passed through to the shareholder and it's non-deductible. Shareholder treatment of distributions is determined at the end of the S corporation's tax year. The AAA, OAA, basis in shareholder stock, and basis in corporate shareholder debt must be adjusted for the S corporation's items of income, deduction, etc. for the entire tax year before determining the proper treatment by the shareholders for the distributions. If there are no subchapter C earnings and profits, distributions that do not exceed the basis in the shareholder stock are treated as a tax-free return of capital. Any excess over the basis is treated as gain on the sale of the stock. If there are subchapter C earnings and profits, the distribution is first treated as a return of capital to the extent of the AAA balance, then as dividend income to the extent of subchapter C earnings and profits, then as a return of capital to the extent of OAA, and finally as a return of capital to the extent of any remaining basis in the stock. Any excess distribution over the remaining basis is treated as gain from the sale of the stock. An election can be made to treat distributions as coming first from subchapter C, E, and P, resulting in ordinary dividend income to the distributee shareholder to the extent of the E and P. Any excess distribution is treated as a return of capital or gain on the sale of stock. Cash distributions within a short transaction period after the termination of an S election are treated as a return of capital to the extent of the AAA. Note these distributions are reported on Form 1099 Div. All right, folks. Well, that's a wrap on
Right.
S
So in
Corp
this case, what you just need to know here is a distribution. So distribution, if it's within the basis of the taxpayer, it's non-taxable. But if it goes beyond their basis, that becomes a taxable gain, right? So that's one thing that you need to be careful of when monitoring basis for S Corp. Although ang kagandahan sa S Corp is that there is a form called 7203 that automatically chases the basis of the taxpayer. You can always get that from the taxpayer, from the client, if you're not that prepared from last year. And then when you look at the distribution dun sa books, try to check the basis because they may end up getting hit with a capital gains tax, right? Ginagawa dito in practice, to get away with the capital gains tax, yung excess distribution, ginagawang loan to shareholder. So ginagawang asset ng business and a liability ng partner. So that's why it's important then when you're doing the books of the taxpayer, you track their distribution. Dito. Or even if you're not the bookkeeper, make it a habit to ask for the form 7203 when you're preparing an 1120S return. Yun lang yung complication sa S Corp. Just be cautious about the amount of distribution. Because ideally, the reason why they want to do S Corp is to get away with taxes, right? And if you're not careful, lalo na pag malaking income ng S Corp, you may inadvertently record the entire distribution as distribution rather than doing something about it. Because yes, distribute nga yan, money nga taken out of the business, but you can always communicate with the client that, hey, can we recategorize some of this distribution as a loan and get your bookkeeper to make the adjustment in the books? Because that can always be arranged, okay, to get away with capital gains tax. Make sense?
Distributions. Thanks for watching.
Okay, last two questions, guys.
If an S corporation has no accumulated earnings and profits from prior operations as a C corporation, any amount distributed to a shareholder must be returned to the S corporation? Well, that seems unfair. I wouldn't send the money back. B, increases the shareholder's basis in the stock? Okay. Why would it increase their basis? It has no accumulated earnings and profits, and an S corporation is now 100% flow through. So that one to me doesn't seem to really fit. That would increase my basis. D, decreases the shareholder's basis in the stock. It kind of seems reasonable that whatever I originally invested, and I'm going to receive tax-free return of capital, and once I eclipse that, then it will be counted as income. So this kind of interesting that would make a lot of sense. D doesn't make sense. No effect on shareholders' basis in stock. It has to affect basis. And surely it does. It will decrease the shareholders' basis in the stock because there is no residual earnings and profits that would have been paid as a dividend if you were a C corporation. So C is our answer.
Right. The closest thing I can associate basis to is equity account, right? In an accounting parlance.
At the end of 2016, Green Inc. was a C corporation with $50,000 in earnings and profits. Green elected to be treated as an S corporation beginning with the 2017 year. At the end of 2024, Green had a balance of $10,000 in its other adjustments account, a balance of $20,000 in its accumulated adjustment account, and a balance of $50,000 in earnings and profits. Green made cash distributions of $25,000 to each of its 50% shareholders. Green makes no elections relating to the source of distributions. What is the remaining Green Inc. earnings and profits balance after the shareholder distributions?
Right. Before we proceed, you may wonder, why would a C corporation elect to be treated as an S corporation? Remember that the C corp is double taxed, right? Yung income ng C corporation is taxed as an entity, tapos yung dividend that the owner gets from the C corporation is also taxed as a taxable dividend sa owner. So may mga C corporation na nag-elect to an S corp, although I have no experience doing this, but just for context, mga C corp nag-elect ng S corp is really to get away with the double taxation.
Okay, so what we're trying to figure out here is we have distributions of $25,000 each to its 50% shareholders. We distributed $50,000. That's what's happening there. All right, so let's kind of just refresh that. $50,000 in distributions. Question is, where did they come from? We really have three different buckets. The first bucket at the end of 2024 had a balance of $10,000 in other adjustment account, which was $10,000. Then we had another bucket, which was $20,000 in the accumulated adjustment account. So that's $20,000 here. And then finally, $50,000 in earnings and profits. Okay, so then we've got E&P with $50,000. Okay, so which bucket are we going to pull from? Is it going to be bucket 1, bucket 2, or bucket 3? All right, so the distribution is first tax-free to the extent of our AAA account, which is $20,000. All right, if the distribution then exceeds the AAA account, then anything else is treated as coming from the accumulated earnings and profits, our last bucket. All right, so Green Inc. has $20,000 in its accumulated adjustment account and $50,000 in its earnings and profits. So we're going to treat the first $20,000 as coming from the accumulated adjustment account. So $50,000 here, we'll take out 20. That leaves $30,000. And then the rest is going to go into this older bucket of earnings and profits. So we're going to take that's $30,000, and we will take it out of this bucket here, and that gives us $20,000 left here. This we did here just for completeness. This should be 0. And you're looking at this and you're like, why didn't you pull anything out of the other adjustments account? That's because you don't. You just don't use that. The sequence is to take it out of current first and then out of your legacy earnings and profits as a C corporation. So to answer this question, what's left in the E&P balance after the shareholder distribution? The answer is D, $20,000.
All right. I know that's a lot, guys. I know that's overwhelming. I don't have to ask. And a lot of those don't make sense as well. Right? Am I right? Am I wrong? But that's okay. We just have to cover the theory. As mentioned earlier, madali lang yung S-Corp, guys. Nadalian kayo sa 1065, mas madali ang S-Corp to prepare. There's not a lot of things to remember because a lot of it are already taken care of by the tax software. And you don't really also cover those with the client because all the client cares is a K1. Right? That's the K1. And the basis also automatically get tracked with 7203. So having said that, 9:13, wow, lumagpas tayo kasi dadal ko kanina. So we're not gonna meet tomorrow, but I'll make a recording. We'll try to create a sample 1120S return in ProConnect that you can follow. Well, I'll share the recording as well in the Telegram channel. And then on Thursday, we'll meet. We'll cover some of those 7203 distributions, and then some of the items remaining in the C Corp. The rest we can skip because it's very rare that you encounter 1041 for estates and trust. You may even forget about those because those rarely came in practice. Some firms are specializing in trust. So unless you belong to a firm that specializes in trust, you will encounter 1041s and for estate and trust. So we'll not cover that. I hope to finish the course entirely by Friday. Okay? Make sense? So again, S-Corp, madali lang yan. Pinahirapan lang kayo ni JT. In real practice, guys, for as long as you know the P&L, you know how to develop your work paper and enter those into the tax software, you're good. All right, so we'll keep in touch to our channel, and I'll see you guys on Thursday, same time, same channel. And if you are observing Thanksgiving, advance happy Thanksgiving. All right, guys, thank you, and you all have a good night.
Thank you, Chris.
Recording stopped.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Sure.